It's a big day of flying in Kenya Airways economy today, all the way from Zanzibar to Amsterdam via Nairobi and Paris. The first leg is Kenya Airways regional product on the 737, and the next two are a same plane Dreamliner service with a quick stop at Charles de Gaulle. Will this turn out to be a big drag or kind of fun? I'll also throw in some bonus clips from Zanzibar and the one-day layover in Nairobi with some ideas for what to do there in case any of you are looking to do the same. I highly recommend making the stop in Nairobi especially. Let's go flying with Kenya Airways. First off, Zanzibar is kind of a wild place. I had pictured it differently. If you get into the interior, you'll see it's also very densely populated and maybe poorer than the popular image might suggest. At this particular time, there were also masked and armed militias roaming the streets on pickup trucks because of election-related unrest, so yeah, an interesting one. But let's get to the airport where this channel feels most at home, and here I've just had an argument with the check-in agents who insisted I check my rolling bag that I always carry on. First time I've ever had to check rolling bag I have the backpack. They're a bit heavy, but no one ever checks, especially not a full-service airline like Kenya Airways, in theory full service. They're acting like a ULCC, like crazy enforcement of weight limits because they seem to be in a bad mood, and it's making me angry. This lounge, which I had access to because of SkyTeam Elite status, is kinda not the best. Also, check out the tippy chairs. Would not recommend spending a lot of time here if avoidable. So we'll see what the quick service in economy is like to Nairobi, and then tomorrow taking the Kenya Airways 787 up to Paris and Amsterdam. A little triangle flight they do. Should be interesting. Totally new experience for me with Kenya Airways. And, so far kind of underwhelming, but we'll see. I'll try to keep an open mind. And here we are way down the back of a Kenya Airways 737. It's okay, no complaints.
This morning we shall be with a flying time of 1 hour, climbing to a final altitude of 36,000 feet above sea level.
This is around an hour's flight to Nairobi, sometimes less, and you get these little sandwiches and a coffee or other drink complimentary. I'd say that's pretty good. The service on this one is brisk, let's say, but no major complaints. And here we are at Jomo Kenyatta International. An absolute mess of an airport, but kind of lovable all the same, much the same way that Nairobi itself is maybe. That said, I'm glad this is not my home airport. And here's a quick look at what you can do with a day's stop in Nairobi. First of all, highly recommend Cultiva for lunch. Super fresh and interesting flavors in a really nice setting outside the city. and perfectly positioned for the next stop, which is the Nairobi National Park. Obviously, if you can get out to the Masai Mara or similar, that is a much more immersive and incredible safari experience, but if you're short on time and or cash, this is an incredible experience in itself, and it's right next to Nairobi. It's so wild to spot zebras and rhinos with a city skyline in the background. There are lions here too, but we didn't see any this time. You can also drive yourself through here, but please don't be like this guy and try to know a thing or two about how to drive off-road before you attempt this, and maybe bring a better car too. And what are you gonna do? Go on safari under a flight path and not use Flight Radar 24? Technically they do pay me, although they didn't pay me to say that. Anyway, let's get to the long-haul flight back to Europe. Welcome back for another day of Kenya Airways flying in economy class. This time we are headed to Europe from Nairobi. Long 8+ hour flight to Paris, a little technical stop there, then onward to Amsterdam. They turned this into a triangle flight. I heard that's because they don't have enough aircraft to do all the European cities they want. Pretty small network Kenya Airways has to Europe. Anyway, London, Amsterdam, Paris. I'm not sure if there's anything else. Anyway, not super impressed with Kenya Airways so far, both in business and in economy on the short legs. They've been kind of underwhelming. Cabin crew, not super friendly. Food, not amazing. So we'll see what this is like. Long haul, kind of a prestige route for them, the 787-8. And they told us to come board an hour and a half before departure. So we're dutifully doing that due to a fear of overhead bin space running out. Let's see if it was actually necessary. These 787s have one of these previous generation business classes that are actually really great if you're traveling with someone. I really want to test this one out actually, but today only economy was available using points. I am honestly dreading this flight in the packed 3x3x3 configuration, but it is good to do this sort of thing and stay at least a little bit humble. Plus we're flying from Africa to Europe. That is a really cool thing that I should be grateful for in whatever cabin, and it's good to have to remember that. Anyway, while I find this configuration very uncomfortable because it means exceptionally narrow seats on the 787, plus if you're traveling in a pair, you end up having to sit next to someone one way or the other, this cabin looks quite okay. Pop quiz, can you name which airline has the only 787s flying in the world that have one less seat across in a 2x4x2 configuration? It's all a little bit old school, but not bad at all in here. The seat is relatively comfy, and there's a functional moving map, and it's time to go.
In charge of the cabin is Senior Flight Purser Tony, and in economy class is Assistant Flight Purser Collins with a team of 7 warm and friendly crew.
About 8.5 hours up to Paris Charles de Gaulle today, and mercifully we do not have to get off the plane there. Tray tables are showing a bit of age and use. There is universal power between the seats, A little moist towel is handed out, which is kinda impressive. And here's breakfast. This is actually pretty tasty and substantial. I'm pleasantly surprised here. Afterwards, they partly dim the windows and turn on some subtle mood lighting, and it's a nice vibe. And then after another little while, there's another drink service with packets of mixed nuts that contain macadamias. Quite a premium offer in economy, I would say. I think I've only ever had macadamia nuts in first class otherwise. Again, like before, the cabin crew is sort of surprisingly unfriendly. Not exactly rude. They did their jobs and it was fine, but there wasn't much pleasant or positive interaction either. That's surprising to me given how friendly Kenyans usually are. I can live with it, it's just a bit of a shame, because you imagine how it could be better. And before we know it, it's lunchtime. Again, it's quite a nice offering, tasty with good portions. While I still think the 787 is annoyingly cramped in economy, this is really not a bad way to do an 8-hour daytime flight. Legroom and recline are fine, the cabin feels open and airy, even when packed with passengers. The seat cushioning is good, and you're well fed. The time really flies by, and as is often the case on the 787, very soon we smash it down onto the runway at Paris. Much to the delight of this one.
The aircraft, and the better it is to go to Amsterdam on time. Thank you for your understanding.
There probably won't be too much service on the next leg. I'm actually kind of curious to see what they do serve, if anything. I was pretty impressed by this flight. 2 hot meals served, a few rounds of drinks, always coffee available. 2 hot meals served, a few rounds of drinks, kind of, not super warm, super happy service. There were definitely a few, just like on the other Kenya Airways flights, that they didn't have the best vibe, but not bad at all. And the service was good, the food was good. And there was enough of it. Didn't go hungry. Quite comfortable in this seat as well. I'd say overall, really solid product, even though it's nothing outstanding, like a really nice kind of 8-hour economy experience. And for the final leg, well, not much to say, except that it is very cool to fly a Kenya Airways 787 on the 40-minute flight from Paris to Amsterdam. And credit to the crew on this one who had to rush through a full drink service. I noticed most people were ordering cocktails too, and it can't have been easy. Thanks for coming along, and I'll catch you next time. Alright, time to run to connect ridiculously to a Lufthansa flight to Frankfurt. Let's see how we go. This gets hoping to be complicated. Here's hoping. Luck is on our side. See you next time.